Let's bring in Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio, who is the son of Cuban immigrants, and he joins us right now from our nation's capital. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning, guys.
When you look at what is going on in Cuba right now, and it sounds like there were up to 5,000 people on the streets of Havana on Sunday. Why did the government allow that to happen? Because we've never seen this in decades, something this big.
Yeah, it happened in over 40-something cities. It's never happened, ever. We've never had over 40-something cities and protests that have continued through Tuesday and Monday, and we just, they shut off the internet, so we don't know how many people are out there. By the way, we don't know how many people have died. We don't know how many people have been seriously injured. We don't know how many people have been arrested. We know, reports of hundreds of people that have vanished. But let me say, the government didn't allow it. On the contrary, they were surprised by it, and then they sent out repressive forces. Look, what's happening there is horrifying, okay? It's hard for people to believe it because it's the kind of stuff you read about happened 100 years ago, but not now. So they'll go into people's homes and say, where's your 15 or 16-year-old son? Because he needs to join this armed mob that's taking to the streets to beat people up. That's what they're doing. They're literally barging into people's homes. I have posted videos on Twitter. Yesterday, this independent journalist was doing an interview with a TV station from Spain, and as she's on the air, state security comes in and arrests her. Another young man knows they're coming for him, goes and starts recording a video, and as he's recording a video calling on the protesters to keep going, you literally see the door behind him kicked open, and state security officials barge in. We don't know where he is today. So the government didn't allow it, and why it's happening? Because communism doesn't work, because Marxism sucks. That's why it's happening. Because people are out there saying, we don't want to live under this oppressive regime. We can't own a business. We can't feed our families. We can't go out and find a job on our own. We depend on the government for everything, and they give us nothing. They build fancy hotels for tourists, but they can't fix crumbling homes. They blame everything on America. We don't believe it anymore, and we're tired of living in a place where the only place in the world where Cubans can't succeed is Cuba. It's the only place in the world where Cubans can't succeed.
Such a good point.
Wow. I remember on the campaign trail when you made a speech, I think it was when you announced maybe, and you talked about what America had given your family. Your dad, y'all became a middle-class family because your dad was able to work as a bartender. I think your mom, she worked in various jobs, a housekeeper and a clerk. And it was really touching, that speech, because it just made me realize how grateful I am for what America offers all of us. Have you ever had a chance to sit down with the squad or Bernie Sanders and detail what your parents went through and just show them what socialism really looks like?
Well, I've never met anyone who's in the squad. Obviously, I deal with Senator Sanders, with Bernie all the time here in the Senate on different topics. We actually work together on things that we agree on, like veterans and the like. And, I can't say we've ever had that conversation, to be frank. But look, here's what I always tell people. All right, you can talk about all the theories you want about socialism, but when you've lived it or you're surrounded by people that lived it, you know what it means. And what it means is these people show up and they say the country's divided between a victim class and an oppressor class. It begins to sound familiar, by the way.
Right.
And then they say you have to give us power so we can go after the oppressor class. And by the way, if you give us power, that means you're going to have less freedom. But don't worry, we're going to provide you all kinds of things to make you more secure. Yeah. And then, of course, they never provide those things, and you don't get freedom back. And then if you criticize them, then you're part of the oppressor class. And that's the model they have followed everywhere in the world. It's playing out to horrific effect in Cuba for over 62 years, and people have had enough.
So, Senator, we want to switch gears with you. You've been seeing what's been happening on our southern border. People have just been freely able to come across that southern border. But Mayorkas has a message for the Cuban people. Let's take a look at that. Do we have it?
Allow me to be clear. If you take to the sea, you will not come to the United States. The time is never right to attempt migration by sea. To those who risk their lives doing so, this risk is not worth taking. Again, I repeat, do not risk your life attempting to enter the United States illegally. You will not come to the United States.
So, Senator, why the hypocrisy? And this is on the heels of the Cuban people fighting for their country right now.
Yeah, so a couple things. Number one, I don't want there to be a mass migration either. And by the way, that's what the Castro government has done in the past. In 1994, when they had some protests in 1980 when they had some protests. What the Castro government did is they said, well, you know what, if you don't like it here, why don't you guys all leave? We'll open it up for you guys to take to the sea. Or they threaten the administrations and they say to them, look, unless you're lifting embargo, it's inevitable. People are going to come and they're going to have a mass migration. They use it as a weapon. And I think it's important. I've already asked the Biden administration to do this, and that is be very clear with the Cuban government. If you trigger a mass migration, we will consider it a hostility, an act of war. We will respond accordingly. But your point is correct, and that is, that's the message they should have sent about the southern border, and they didn't. And they didn't. But look, so far, and I want this to be a bipartisan issue, okay? And I want to be fair. Like Bob Menendez, senator from New Jersey, very strong on Cuba. A lot of them, some Democrats are too. But here's the bottom line. This administration's response has been lame.
Yeah.
It's been lame on this whole issue. Now, I wish they had as much passion, I wish they had half the passion that they have for going after Republican state legislatures and Republican governors and Republican members of Congress. I wish they had half the passion that they have against the Republicans that they do against the tyranny in Cuba. Just half. Not all of it, just half.
Senator,
and right now we don't have it. And the reason why is because the person running Cuba policy for this administration is a supporter of engagement with the Castro regime. She has personally coordinated a bunch of visits to Cuba for members of Congress. And she ultimately, she's even been hailed in official state media in Cuba in the past as an enlightened figure.
But here's Joe Biden politically is in a pickle. He lost Florida in 2020. He would like to win it next time. But if he's got her dictating the policy for Cuba, he's not going to win it again.
Well, he doesn't just have her dictating the policy. He has entire elements of his party that would come out against him if he did something strong on Cuba. And what does strong mean? Here's what strong means, okay? These guys talk about diplomacy's back, America's back. Great. Do me a favor. Convene the United Nations Security Council. Convene the Organization of American States. Use your diplomatic heft, the fact that America's back, and go to all these countries and say, okay, guys, we have a massacre about to happen 90 miles from our shores. We want the international community to condemn it, to isolate, and to be prepared to take action. Because, look, one thing is to have a bloodbath half a world away. Again, it's terrible. It's horrifying. This is a bloodbath 90 miles off of our shores. It's destabilizing. And I want to know what Joe Biden's going to do when 1,000 special forces from Russia arrive on Cuban territory to help the Cuban regime. Because that's what's coming next.
But
that's
Senator,
what's coming next.
Senator, why doesn't Joe Biden want to say what you just said? That communism sucks.
Because he's got people in his party, and I mean grassroots supporters, the activist base of that party, all those small dollars. How do you think these people raise $8, $9, $10 million a week online if you just announce that you're running for something against a Republican? They raise it from a radical left-wing base. There is a radical left-wing Marxist element in the Democratic Party. I'm not saying it's the majority of the voters in the Democratic Party. I don't know what percentage it is, but I can tell you it is a large percentage of the people who knock on doors and donate small dollars and dictate policy. That I can tell you.
Well, you called out on Twitter, Twitter for blocking politicians and activists who were doing the right thing, in many people's opinion, but not these Marxist socialist dictators. Tell us what led you to that.
Well, first of all, I'm not in favor of Twitter banning anybody. No. I want to hear what people have to say so we can respond to them. I'm not in favor of it. But if they're going to do it, okay, if they're going to take a president of the United States and say, we're suspending you forever, if you're going to go after American politicians and block their tweets, censor their tweets, and even deny them access to these platforms, then you have to do it to a brutal dictator who's on Twitter, along with other members of the regime, basically inciting people to take to the streets and attack and maim and hurt and kill their fellow countrymen. In essence, inciting civil war in Cuba, and they've done nothing. You know why they've done nothing? Because they're hypocrites. Because they're hypocrites. If that was a right-wing strong man doing that, they would probably
100%.
ban their account.
And the American people see it. Senator, one last thing that we want to get to. Your governor in the great state of Florida is releasing this. Don't Fauci my Florida. And he's selling koozies and other merchandise.
T-shirts.
What do you think about this, Senator?
I think it's great. Look, guys, I mean, there's this notion out there that somehow Fauci's above reproach, that he can't be touched.
Right.
Fauci has openly and enthusiastically engaged himself in the political debate of this country. He has no problem going on every media outlet, wagging his finger at everybody, and by the way, in many cases implying accusing anyone who doesn't agree with him of being backwards, of wanting to kill people. Okay, he has had no problem becoming a national celebrity and being on cover of the magazines. That means he's not immune to sarcasm. He's not immune to criticism. And so, you know, what do I think? I think it's funny.
Well,
Exactly.
one of the cozies says, the message is, how the hell am I going to be able to drink a beer with a mask on?
Well, I think that's a quote from the governor when he was at, I believe,
Exactly.
at the Super Bowl, and he had to have a mask on. And actually, that's a great question. How are you supposed to drink beer with a mask on?
I've actually seen people drink beer through a mask in
It's
Florida.
messy.
It's not optimal. I've seen
It's
it
very
happen.
messy.
That is nasty. Thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.